That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. And Jim, every dignitary and his brother and uncle was out there today on the REM. Of course, we had the Premier, we had the Prime Minister, we had the Mayor. And I couldn't help but think, forgive me, how odd it might have been if the REM had actually frozen at some place. They'd all been stuck on there together. Imagine
give
that.
it time, Aaron. Give it time. But, it's kind of funny because, and I'm really going to date myself here, but when I saw all those dignitaries, the Premier, the Prime Minister, the Mayor, and all their hangers-on and all their entourage, I was remembered of say, the opening minutes of an Irwin Allen movie, which would usually, he made these disaster films, right? And, either the train would be sucked into space or whatever. But as I was just telling our mutual producer, Alice, there's a pretty good chance that, we already know one of our topics on Monday will be how the REM broke down over the weekend. And listen, I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy here, but the fact is, I know, our listeners know, and REM commuters sure as hell know that anything even vaguely resembling inclement weather tends to bring the entire system to a grinding halt. And we're looking at freezing rain this weekend. So as much as I will wish good luck to the extension to de Montaigne of the REM, but I will also say Godspeed. And remember, folks, admission this weekend is free. And as they always say, you get what you pay for.
Ooh.
So listen, you may end up an inadvertent media hero being interviewed about how you enjoyed or didn't enjoy the REM. But the bottom line here is it's $10 billion, and here I am having a perfectly serious conversation with you about how the odds say something's going to go wrong sooner rather than later, and there is something wrong with that picture.
Look, again, we don't want to be a negative Nellies, whatever we say, but I think to myself, the bottom line here, Jim, and they've said this from the get-go, and it makes sense, is to have people decide to leave their cars at home and use this. And this, if it actually works, takes you right into downtown. It could, in fact, do that. But I can't help but wonder, and I'm waiting for the Gazette or somebody to do a study. It's all well and good to say this will work and this will be a faster way to get you into town. Where are you supposed to get to or park your car when you get to the station?
Well, that's you're niggling with all these details, Aaron. Come on, it's in a perfect transit world. Everything is public transit. You'll take the bus, even though. And we should have seen the warning signs there and then, because the deal with the REM, the deal with the CJAD was, okay, we're going to build this, okay, but along our route, we're going to have no competition. We will not have buses running parallel routes or whatever. It'll just be all REM all the time. And, of course, the delicious irony is the thing broke down so many times that shuttle buses provided by the local transit authorities became perhaps, the more common way to get around. And a lot of people, and I lived on the South Shore when the reserve bus lanes were first established on the Champlain Bridge, and they were 99.9% of the time, Aaron, they worked like a charm. And, it may have happened, a bus got stalled or there was bad weather, they had to eliminate the lane, that was it. But now I'm thinking of all the people who I interviewed at the beginning when it inaugurated the first leg from Brossard to Central Station. All the people who were saying, I'm going to have an open mind and this and that, and, but it's unfortunate that they got rid of our existing bus routes across the bridge. I'm wondering how many of those people that I spoke to have basically said, the hell with you, I can't waste my time with the REM, and said, I'm going back to my car. And it may be a pain, but at least I know I'm going to get from point A to point B and whatever. But once again, I don't want to have this attitude. I want to, I really am keeping my fingers crossed for this, but experience tells me, the odds tell me, Aaron, that chances are you and I will be talking about something that went wrong this weekend. I hope I'm wrong, and if I am wrong, I'll trumpet it as much on Monday as I am right now. But I just and indeed, when they were doing some shakedowns for the extended line. The line that goes out to Anse-Salam, a couple of trains got stuck on there for 24 hours, and it's unclear what, was it the snow, Aaron? I have no idea. But here's the thing. We shouldn't be having this conversation. We'd be saying, my God, thank goodness, finally, they got this thing completed at the Montaigne. Let's get the whole thing done. Let's make it a commuter's paradise. I'll believe it when I see it. I hope it happens. But as I say, experience has taught me to really, really, really manage my expectations when it comes to the REM.
Again, we all want it to work out. We all want it to work out the way we expect it to. Fingers crossed. But, history is history. So let's just keep that in mind. All right. Let me move on to talk about you're noting here, it looks like the PQ has turned its back on prop prep. Explain.
Yep. Okay. And this is another issue in political and Canadian political annals of essentially just snatching away the football for the last time. You may recall in 2015, Justin Trudeau, newly elected Justin Trudeau, in his campaign said, "This is the last election that will be fought under or conducted under first past the post. We're going to go to some form of proportional representation." Blah 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 blah. And of course, he won. And he just basically said, no, people aren't interested in that right now. We're going to stick with the same system. And he won a couple of minority governments, and now even another Liberal has won a minority government with that system, okay? Now, we come to Quebec, and you may recall in the flush of the victory of the first term of François Legault's Coalition Avenir Quebec, he even attended a ceremony, Aaron. He signed. I don't even know if he did, the Norton thing of shaking his hand before he actually signed the thing. It was such a big deal. We are an agreement, written agreement with all the parties. This is the last election that will be fought under first past the post. And of course, the minute they won with this tsunami of seats based on, like maybe 30% of the ballots cast, they said, hey,
wait a minute. The table.
Wait a minute. Yeah. Okay. And then François Legault goes, oh, well, Quebecers have more important things to worry about than proportional representation or the electoral system. Well, segue now. Here we are, 2025, and what a dizzying decade it has been, Aaron. But here's that nice Eric James, still flushed with the idea that he actually managed to get an independent MNA to sort of be his bridgehead into the National Assembly. And he points out that there was supposed to be a press conference attended by his party, the Quebec Conservative Party, and Québec Solidaire, and the Parti Québécois, calling for the establishment of proportional representation. Well, guess who suddenly decided they had to wash their hair before they had to show up? The PQ. And he goes, well, what the hell is this? Are they turning their backs on it now? Because now it looks like with the first past the post system, they'll clean up as big time as the CAC did in the next election. And the PQ is saying, well, no, we don't have the, we wouldn't have the time to attend press conferences with other parties. We'll have our own press conference down the road, which basically means, you don't bother winding up too hard for that kick, Charlie Brown. Luce is going to snatch the football away again. And the problem here is when you look at the inequities of this, when you look at the fact that here the Liberals get like 19 seats in the National Assembly with a few percentage points more of the vote than Eric James Conservatives, and he got absolutely none. There is something wrong with that picture. Of course, people will say, well, you usually wind up with minority governments, and it's all politicking now. You know what I mean? The fact is, we have, and you and I have discussed this, God help us, for nearly 8 years now. The tail's wagging the dog in Quebec, a small minority. And when I say small, I mean maybe 23, 24% of the entire electorate has essentially had a stranglehold on government. Small numbers of rural voters have put this party in power with supermajorities, and we're seeing the result, and it is a terrible result. And the opposition have essentially been relegated to kind of spectators in government. And yes, there is a problem with that picture. It is something that has to change. Will it be? I keep hearing, well, it's going to be proportional representation, and then like a graded system. And don't make it too difficult, right? Keep it simple, guys. But the fact of the matter is, the existing system, which dates essentially from the 18th century, is completely ridiculous in this day and age. And if we ever needed proof that it was time to change the electoral system in Quebec, I got 7 years of the CAC government as Exhibit A, and for all I know, another skewed election result next October. It isn't right, and I think, and you and I have the conversation, well, why are people becoming so cynical? I think one of the reasons they're becoming so cynical is, to a certain extent, it isn't that their vote doesn't count. It isn't that their vote doesn't get counted. The fact is, the way this system works out, there are literally tens of thousands of votes which are basically get thrown out the airlock even before the count's done, because you've got the population either spread out in too many or concentrated in too few number of ridings, which is a problem the Quebec Liberals are facing right now, as are the federal Conservatives. And you're not really having a government that reflects the electoral choices of the people in the jurisdiction where the election was held. So it is kind of crazy.
Look, I wanted to ask you a couple of things. Well, I'll ask you one because I started this today, just not talking politics. There was a story, or at least on the Today Show in the U.S., one of their contributors suggested, hey, if you're going to come to Montreal as an American visitor, here's where you should go. If you had someone coming here, Jim, where would you send them? Because this is my question to listeners today. If they're coming to Montreal for the first time.
Oh my goodness! I would certainly say, like Little Italy. I'm sorry, I have to be careful about downtown because you never know what kind of shape it's going to be in, and I don't want to look completely stupid. Certainly, if they're coming in the summertime, I would say, go to Parc Jean Drapeau. It's a very beautiful way to see the city from across the river. But you know what? Above and beyond everything else, manage your expectations. Understand that it's entirely possible that some stuff is not going to work the way you think it's going to work. Well, listen, buddy, that's the problem. And as I've said, and I have no reason to change my opinion, one of the biggest tourist draws for Montreal, and I'm not dumping on Montreal, but remember, Montreal, our unofficial motto is Montreal, where your dollar buys you $1.40. So you know what? That's also a big draw, and I don't think people are wondering what the city looks like when they're out there shopping and then getting their TPS, their GST refund when they go back home.
All right, Jim, have a good weekend.
The newest tracks. Let's go. New music. And the next big thing.
Always on the new music first.
Your first place to hear it all.
'Cause you gon' like it, love it, wanna play it twice. Playing now.
iHeart New Music. Your digital station for brand new drops, fresh finds, and tomorrow's bangers.
I think we need something new.
Discover iHeart New Music. Always fresh, always first. Stream now on the free iHeartRadio app.